Good morning to those joining us from the Americas and good afternoon to our colleagues in Europe. Welcome to today's webinar, Rethinking the Curbside, Digital Solutions for Sustainable Cities. This session is part of the EU-funded International Urban and Regional Cooperation Program in North America within our Sustainable Urban Mobility and Transport Network, which most of the cities connecting are a part of. My name is Susana Arellano. I'm the Deputy Team Leader of IURC North America, and I'm joining you today from New York. We'd love to know where you're connecting from, so please take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. We would love to know who's connecting and which city you represent. Before we begin, I want to thank our presenters and especially the cities joining us today. Many of you, as I mentioned before, are part of our SUMT activities, and you were recently in the event in Boston. Today's webinar builds on those conversations and reflections that you shared during the event and that you actually talked with our colleague Stefano Zenoni, our IURCNA SUMT expert, who will also be moderating this session with me. Now going to the housekeeping. Just a quick reminder, this session is being recorded. The recording, presentations, and a fact sheet will be uploaded soon on the IURC website. Please add all of your questions in the chat at any time. After the presentations, we'll open the floor to read them out loud, and then we will follow with a roundtable discussion. If you would like to actively participate in the roundtable discussion, let us know. We can upgrade you to panelist so you can use your microphone and camera. Now, to start us off, I'd like to welcome Monica Norcute, our Program Officer for Foreign Policy Instruments in the Americas at the delegation of the European Union to Canada. Thank you, Monica.
Well, thank you, Susanna, for this introduction, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Once again, great to see so many familiar cities joining us today. As Susanna mentioned, I'm the Program Officer at the European Union Delegation to Canada, and I am managing the International Urban and Regional Cooperation Program, which brings us here today. And I'm very pleased to open the second webinar in this series following your recent study visit to Boston, actually just last summer. Across Europe, we are rethinking how cities manage curbside space and urban mobility, and the pressures are, I believe, familiar to all of us. Traffic congestion, air pollution, limited access to public space, and the urgent need for climate resilience. These are challenges we share not only in Europe, but also in Canada and in the United States. So to address those challenges, the European Union promotes sustainable curbside and public space management through its urban mobility framework, in Europe. This encourages cities to develop sustainable urban mobility plans that integrate transport, land use, and sustainability into a coherent strategy and policies. The European Union Green Deal, our roadmap to climate neutrality by 2050, reinforces this ambition. It supports reclaiming urban spaces while investing in digital tools, nature-based solutions, and smart mobility pilots through programs such as Horizon Europe. We are putting resources into public transport, cycling, walking, and digital applications that make travel smarter and cities more livable. These are global issues, and we see very strong potential for collaboration with Canada and in the United States, sharing innovations and learning from each other's experiences. In March, our discussion focused on Munich in Germany, and today we turn to Madrid alongside perspectives from the United States of America and contributions from the cities in Canada as well. I will stop here. I'll just wish everyone a very fruitful and inspiring discussion, and I believe this is unfortunately the last webinar in the series. So thank you all. Have a great webinar.
Thank you, Monica, and thank you for your continued support of our program. I would like now to start with, the introduction of our great colleague and leader of the IURCNA SUMT network, Stefano Zenoni.
So first of all, a very warm welcome to everyone. It's a great pleasure. I'm connected from Italy. Here is late afternoon, so I would like to say a special thank to all the cities connected from the other side of the Atlantic in the early morning area. So my name is Stefano Zenoni, senior expert from the IURC program in the field of sustainable urban mobility and transport. And well, it's a great pleasure to see again some of the people I had the honor of meeting at the Boston event last June. And I'm equally delighted to greet new participants who have joined us for today's session. So the purpose of my short introduction here is to outline today's topic and the main goals of this webinar. So let's move to the slide number 1. So public space in general, and particularly in cities, is an extremely scarce and limited resource. And within this category, the Curbside represents an even narrower strip of land where the greatest number of needs, uses, opportunities, challenges, and projects come together. And it's, well, in other words, an highly contested space which requires careful and efficient management. And today we will focus on digital curbside management and on the technologies that can support this activity. So there are many reasons why cities need to manage the curbside effectively. In particular, they face, for example, a sharp rise in urban logistics, driven both by existing commercial activities and by the growth of e-commerce, for example. The ambition to improve sustainable mobility infrastructure, including walking, cycling, public transport, the desire to create outdoor spaces for social life, for example. I think about the local businesses such as cafes, restaurants, street markets, and any kind of use, and the need to increase revenues, why not, from parking and the use of public space. This is important too. And finally, and certainly, let me say, fundamental in recent years, we were speaking about these few minutes ago in the pre-session, and let me say this, the most forward-looking cities are rethinking their public spaces to make them more resilient to climate change. For each of these goals, it's essential to allocate and specialize the limited square meters available. So curbside management plays a central role in this, and only through advanced and efficient management, it's possible to pursue several goals simultaneously, particularly those related to mobility. So let's move on to slide 2. Thank you. And I have tried to capture the purpose of this webinar with 4 key words, key verbs: gain, learn, explore, discuss, which also reflect the wider role of the IURC program, a program of exchange of good practices across the Atlantic, Canada, US, and European Union, of course. We will hear both from those developing dedicated technologies and offering tools for the cities to design their own curbside management models, and real stories from some cities, different insights and context selected from Europe, US, and Canada. We will begin with a major European capital, Madrid, which has also committed itself to digital curbside management with a strong focus on urban logistics as a part of a broader citywide strategy. And as we know, the European Union supports sustainable mobility and, in particular, the development of sustainable urban mobility plans through dedicated programs and funding, precisely to promote an integrated vision of projects and policies. And at the end, the roundtable will show us the point of view of different cities, insights, context, and whatever, in a, I think, very interesting and useful discussion. It's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Andrew Glass-Hastings, Executive Director of the Open Mobility Foundation, an open source foundation that provides governance around open source mobility tools. And I think this is the perfect lens through which to open today's discussion. So Andrew, thank you very much. I think it's really early in the morning there in Seattle, but the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefano. And thank you so much for the opportunity to talk about the future of curb management, and more specifically, the work we do at the Open Mobility Foundation, really enabling cities' digitization of public space and infrastructure like the curb. If you could go to the next slide, please, that'd be great. And actually, one more slide, please. Great. So I'm the Executive Director of the Open Mobility Foundation, and the OMF, as it's known, is only a few years old. We were created in 2019, and we were founded by cities and led by cities to really help bring together the public and private sectors to co-create open source digital tools to enable cities to manage shared mobility and also digitize and manage public space in this modern era. The tools that we develop through a very collaborative process are used by more than 300 cities and public agencies around the world. So we truly are small but extensive in reach, both here in the US, Canada, and Europe. You see an example there on the map of some of the cities that are using our digital tools in Europe. And we really focus on creating a forum where the public sector, and with a focus really on cities from our founding, can work with technology companies, with mobility operators to solve problems and identify solutions together. That is very much at the core of what we do. So the OMF vision: digital infrastructure to help cities manage public space for the public good. Essentially, that is at the core of what we do. And we do that through developing these free and open source data standards. Now, this can sound very wonky and very technical quite quickly, but trust me, I'm not a technical person by background, and these at the kind of policy and conceptual level are important tools to enable new and different shared modes of transportation in our cities, but also to be able to better manage the limited public space that we have in our cities and find ways of kind of squeezing more use and getting more efficient use out of the space we have. Let's go on to the next slide, please. We are a membership organization. As an example, you see some of the public sector members from cities to regions and beyond, from North America to Europe, and also some of the private sector companies that engage with us intentionally to align the work they're doing and the systems they're developing with the needs and interests of those public agencies. Public agencies join the OMF at no cost. We try to create a very low barrier of entry for public agencies. Again, as our founding suggests, back in 2019, when a group of cities came together and wanted to create a trusted third-party organization to convene this public-private partnership, we really encourage agencies to engage in our work. Next slide, please. We also work, just wanted to provide an example of some of the organizations that we work with around the world. In fact, last week I was in Brussels attending the European Parking Association Congress and working with our very strong partner organization, Polis. And I'm excited, in just a few weeks, I'll be up in Quebec City at the Transportation Association of Canada conference. I'm really excited to engage in this conversation about public space digitization in that context as well. Next slide, please. Okay, so Stefano laid out the kind of the challenge, the problem statement pretty well around, how do we get more use out of this very limited resource that's public space, and specifically the curb in our cities. So when our network came together during the pandemic, and driven by the really significant increase in demand on the curb, there was a need to digitize this space, a need recognized. In order to really realize a lot of the goals that cities have for curb management, it needed to move beyond the analog ways of managing the space that we see in cities around the world today, from physical signage to paint color to other means of managing that space through payments and the like. So the idea, even as Stefan said, is focus in on this curb. And what is the curb? It's much more than just those 3 inches of concrete that you see painted yellow in this photo in front of you. The curb is some of the most valuable and yet undermanaged real estate in cities today. Cities, by and large, are not creating more curb space, but as the demands for that curb space have exploded, from parcel delivery, food delivery, grocery delivery, the need for active transportation modes, public space, cities are forced to better manage and balance those competing needs around this incredibly important and fairly, kind of mediocre part of the public realm. All right, next slide, please. So when we talk about when we talk about the Curb Data Specification, think about CDS, as we call it, as a tool to aid in that digitization of public space. And while curb is literally in the name, it's much more than just the curb. Think about this as an opportunity to digitize the public realm and to create a digital representation of that physical space, and most importantly, the rules and policies that govern that space, and to be able to communicate that out to users so that they understand digitally in a machine readable format what the rules and policies are that that govern that public space and can be managed very dynamically. Let's go back one slide. Sorry, real quick. I want to highlight three important components that are identified there on the right. And in essence, this is the opportunity to create a digital curb inventory, to express those rules and regulations, to use technology such as cameras or sensors to monitor the curb, and to actually understand how that space is being used, by whom, when, and for how long, and then to take that new information, those metrics, and make better informed decisions about the allocation of that space and the dynamic management of that space. No longer is it suitable for curb space to be one use all day or multiple days of the week. It must change needs based on the demand. Okay, next slide. CDS was built in the open through our very open and transparent development process. We use working groups and the online resource GitHub to convene the public and private sectors to develop tools like CDS. It's very much at the center of the cities, the users, and the technology providers. Next slide, please. So use cases. Let's talk about the kind of the practicality here. And while again, I'm going to talk a lot about the curb, think about this as the opportunity to digitize more of your public realm and be able to, again, have that digital representation of the rules and regulations that govern that space. So one of the things that we've seen is an opportunity to actually manage the curb in real time, understand how it's being used minute by minute, and then to be able to adjust the rules, whether that's the price that's paid, whether that's it's a commercial loading zone to a paid parking area in the midday to a public transport lane in the evening during a peak period. The ability to change the rules dynamically is at the core of CDS. All right, let's go on. We convened a group of 10 US cities 2 years ago, supported by US DOT SMART grant funding. And each of these 10 cities was awarded a grant to use CDS to digitize their curb space. They had different reasons and project objectives, but at the core, they were digitizing their public space, and they had an opportunity with the convening of the OMF to do that as a peer network and not have to learn and experiment on their own, which can be quite challenging. And so this group is now on the very end of their project implementation here about 2 years later. And we have learned a great deal from their real world experience of implementing CDS. And in fact, we have been able to take those learnings and incorporate them into the next version of CDS, which is a constantly evolving open source data specification. So just next week, my board of directors is going to be considering the approval of that updated CDS 1.1 that comes from the real world experience of those cities. And I do want to mention that we are actually continuing that collaborative effort, and we're opening it up to more cities. Because that SMART grant funding, US DOT, limited the participation to US cities, and now that those projects are ending, we have an opportunity to continue this cohort, but open it up to cities in Canada and in Europe, and really create an international network of, or peer group of cities to be able to learn and share with each other as you all work through your curb and public space digitization efforts. So please don't hesitate to reach out if you're interested in learning a little bit more about that program. Also online, you will find a Curb resource hub where information about all of those Curb collaborative projects, as well as how-to guides and other really important resources, are available for the use and understanding of CDS. Next slide. And then I encourage you to get involved in our work. Like I said, we are a very inclusive and transparent organization. We work through a set of working groups. Obviously, you can't click on these links right now, but when this deck is shared out, I encourage you to look into joining the working groups, which are public meetings, open and available for all. You can sign up for our mailing list to understand the upcoming agendas and topics of discussion. Next slide. And thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with you just scratching the surface on Curb digitization. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. This is really insightful, and I love the way that you have been developing it in collaboration or in cooperation, as we say, with so many cities. I really look forward to seeing what your next cohort does, especially now with the experiences from several other places. And next, we will have Maria Eugenia Martinez Donaire. She is the head of Department for International Strategy at the City of Madrid, and she will share a real-life example of innovative curbside management in Madrid.
Well, thank you very much for having me today, and thank you everyone for joining us in this webinar. I will go very briefly through the problems and challenges that we have we are facing with curbside management in Madrid, and then some of the solutions that we have implemented or we are developing right now. So next slide, please. Well, Madrid is a large city, but in terms of mobility, it has around, in the total metropolitan area, it has around 16 million trips every day. 14 million of them are made within the city. And although more than half of them are made by sustainable transportation, especially in the city center. And it's also a global transportation hub for passengers and also for freight. We have one of the largest airport in the country, and the fifth in the European Union. But still, as a big city, we have and we face some challenges. Next slide. The urban freight system in Madrid provides services for different sectors, and each of them has a specific logistical needs. The sector of small retail, of cafes, restaurants, and hotels represents more than 50% of the total. Then small retailers, B2B deliveries, and recently the rise of e-commerce, as they said before, has completely changed the delivery model with an increase of the demand for the same day deliveries, the reverse logistics, returns, and the last mile solutions. And this is impacting the mobility in the city as well, causing more than 20% of the emissions and more than 20% of the congestion. Next slide. Okay. So the key challenges that we face regarding curbside is the limited urban space that we have. The curbside is a limited urban space with multiple uses on a street, parking, loading and unloading zones, bus stops, bike sharing stations, waste containers, urban furniture, and pedestrian spaces, and many more. Madrid is a compact city, and we have the urban space is scarce, and we have many different uses. So the curbside in Madrid faces a variety of challenges: congestion and overcrowding, the inefficient use of space. Curbside space is not always optimally allocated. For example, parking spaces might be underutilized at certain times of the day, while other uses such as bike sharing stations or loading zones might be saturated. The lack of infrastructure for sustainable mobility as well. Our infrastructures were designed under a car-centric paradigm, and now we have to adapt them, and also the curbside to the new mobility ecosystem, and follow a complete street approach. The scarcity of space and infrastructure and multiple uses lead to conflicts. The previous This leads to conflicts between different users and can create problems like illegal parking, double parking invasion of bike lanes, or causing congestion and safety problems, as I said. And this is also a consequence of the regulations that are poorly enforced or not clearly defined. Next slide. So in Madrid, we have a regulated parking system called SER, and this was designed to balance mobility, sustainability, and residents' needs. We operate different types of parking zones. First, we have the green zones, which gives priority to residents with annual permits. Non-residents can still park there, but they pay higher rates and can only stay for a maximum of 2 hours, I think. Then there is the blue zone, which is open to the general public, and the rates here are lower than in the green zone, and the price depends on how polluting your vehicle is. Cleaner vehicles, such as electric or hybrid, pay less, or they are for free in some cases. And we also have high rotation spaces in areas with high demand, like commercial streets. And these are designed for quick stops, such as shopping or short businesses visits. The prices are higher, and parking is limited to 45 minutes to ensure constant rotation or constant turnover. Because of the high demand of parking, especially beyond the city center, we've extended the SER service outside of the inner ring road, M30, and today around 85% of regulated spaces are green zones for residents. Well, finally, our system is highly digitalized. Drivers can pay through mobile apps, contactless cards, or solar-powered meters. And the information is also very modernized, using both food agents and vehicles equipped with license plate recognition technology to monitor compliance in real time. Well, as it was mentioned before, the regulation, or the regulatory framework that we approved in Madrid to transform the mobility to a more sustainable one is the Madrid 360 sustainability strategy, and the two instruments for planning mobility, the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan that was approved in 2022, and also the Sustainable Urban Logistics Plan or strategy that was approved also in 2022. And in this strategy, and also in the Sustainable Urban Mobility Plan, some of our priorities is, in fact, acting or managing the curbside and the parking. And one of the most important measures that we have implemented in this strategy is the implementation of a smart loading and unloading system. It is an application. Next slide. It is an application that we have developed. It is the Madrid Doom 360 app to help better manage loading and unloading activities across the city. The system offers a more efficient, fully digital solution for urban delivery professionals, making it easier for trucks and vans to find available spaces, follow the rules, and keep operations running smoothly. The launch of this was made possible thanks to a regulatory update that we did in our Sustainable Mobility Ordinance, which provided the legal framework for this development. Let me briefly explain how it works. First, well, it is mandatory for all the logistic operators. And first, users download and install the app, and then they register their vehicles, whether it's a van, truck, or similar delivery vehicle, and the system verifies each vehicle's license plate and automatically check it against the National Vehicle Registry. This ensures that only eligible vehicles are authorized to use the designated loading and unloading zone. Then once they are registered, users can easily select a loading zone. They can either browse or in an interactive map, or enter the specific 7-digit code. We have a code assigned for all the loading and unloading zones that are digitalized. And these codes are structured to reflect the district, neighborhood, and the specific zone, making the navigation very, very simple. And the third, the app shows real-time information on the availability of each zone. And through a simple color-coded system, drivers can immediately see whether a space is free or not, and this saves time and reduces unnecessary driving and helps minimize congestion. And finally, when the vehicle is correctly parked, the app automatically generates a virtual parking ticket. This ticket includes the vehicle's license plate, the expiration time, and the loading zone ID. And with this, the digital confirmation drivers know they are fully compliant with the city regulations. Next slide, please. Madrid is also participating in a project or a Horizon project. It's a Horizon Europe project, and it is a very innovative project because it reunites logistic operators, technology developers, and cities to design and test innovative solutions for logistics and also for the curbside management. And one of the pilots that we are testing, we are designing in the framework of this project is the dynamic curbside management. It has been specifically designed to address the challenges that we are facing in urban mobility, particularly in districts like Villaverde, where we are going to test it. It is Villaverde is in the south of Madrid, where public space is limited and the demand for parking varies greatly throughout the day. This neighbor is not regulated. They don't have the parking regulated system, and by introducing dynamic parking management, we want to allow us, it will allow us to make smarter and more efficient use of the space. This pilot works by dynamically assigning parking spaces according to diagnosis or to diagnosis that we are made because we try to do it to allocate according to real-time demand, but it is very complex. So we are doing now some studies on the diagnosis, and we will allocate the times according to this. And this includes parking for people with reduced mobility, school drop-off zones, logistics, and delivery vehicles, and general public as well. So instead of having fixed allocations that often remain underutilized, as I said before, the system adapts constantly to actual needs on the ground. And the first objective is to improve parking rotation and optimize parking utilization. We got in contact with the district, and one of the problems that they have is that precisely because they don't have the regulated system, people use the curbside as their own garages and they park there forever. So we want to improve the better use of the curbside for everyone. Also facilitate urban logistics. It's a district that has a lot of commercial uses and also restaurants, bars, but they have very few loading and unloading zones, and that was a request that they have. And also, this pilot will serve us to evaluate the impact of flexible parking policies. And we will install the previous one first, just to explain that we will install poles with digital signs that will change variable signs, and we will also use IoT sensors to monitor the use of the parking. It will be voluntary. We will not find anyone to do that, but we are disseminating the pilot, and we are encouraging the neighbors to use it. But the regulation, it is a hurdle that we have found, that we find when we want to try pilots, because of course it is very difficult to approve a regulation to cover these pilots or these innovative pilots. Now we are working in Madrid to approve a sandbox to that will provide the regulatory framework for this innovative action, but it is still not approved. Okay, the next one, the next pilot that we will test, it will be pop-up deliveries. It is because we have seen, like in some periods, like Black Friday or Christmas, the delivery activity in Madrid increases sharply, typically by around 15%. So we will install mobile hubs. We could name them so. They are trucks that will be parked, because now the DOOM ordinance, it is for the logistic drivers are allowed to park for 45 minutes max, or if they have zero emission vehicles, 65 minutes. So with this pilot, we will allow them for specific times of the year and in specific zones to install and to be parked there longer, so they can also act as mobile or pop-up delivery points. And the traffic of the delivery vans don't have to go around the city finding park and causing congestion as well. And lastly, the last pilot that we will try is it is not on the street. It's in a parking facility that we have. EMT, the public transport operator in Madrid, manages these underground facilities, and we will try because the DOOM app, you are not able to book for space. And it is precisely because we don't have the way to monitor, we don't have cameras to monitor if there is an illegal use. And so it is not possible for us to provide or to be certain that the space is available. So with this pilot, we will install a camera to monitor the parking and the loading and unloading zones in some of the spaces that we have allocated in underground facilities for loading and unloading uses. And next slide. This is all from my side. Thank you very much for your time, for your attention, and any question I will be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maria Eugenia. That sounds like a really interesting pilot. We look forward to receiving your questions. I will mention again, for those who arrived a little bit late, you can post all of your questions in the chat. We can also give you the opportunity to turn on your camera and microphone. If you would like to say your question out loud, let us know in the chat as well. We have a lot of questions, Stefano and I, for Andrew and Maria Eugenia, but of course we want to leave space for all of the attendees to ask the questions for our experts. I would like now to start with a roundtable. We have invited several of the cities from our network that have been dealing either with challenges or trying to implement solutions related to curbside management. And so I would like to introduce Tim Doherty, Amer Afridi, and Juan Carlos Escudero from San Francisco, from St. John's, Canada, and from Vitoria-Gasteiz, Spain, to explain a little bit about what they are facing in each one of these cities. So in the meantime, please start putting your questions in the chat, and I'll give the floor first to Tim from San Francisco. Oh, we can't hear you, Tim.
Can you hear me now?
No. Yes, now.
Yeah. Okay, great. So yes, it's great to be with everyone. As mentioned, I'm a transportation planner here in San Francisco, working for the San Francisco Municipal Transportation Agency. We have a curb management strategy. We also have a climate action plan, and I'm working to align both of those as we look to support expansion of the city's electric vehicle charging network. Initially, we were hoping to build out more of that charging network in our off-street parking facilities because we have capacity in those facilities. And as we all know, there's far less conflict with pedestrians and bikes and other vehicles when we're dealing with parking facilities. And the curb is very busy. There's high demand for our curb. And we really, we're trying to build out the network off the curb. However, that being said, we recognize a number of residents, especially those in multi-unit families, dwellings, don't have garages. And as the city gets more dense in the years ahead, we recognize those folks are going to need the curb perhaps to charge their electric vehicle. We definitely prefer everyone to be biking, walking, and taking transit, but we do recognize that some trips in San Francisco need to be made by autos. And so we want to support the conversion to a zero emission transportation system by 2040 to align with local, regional, state policies. So I've done an electric vehicle curbside feasibility study. We're wrapping that up. It's actually been released as of yesterday. I'm happy to share that with anyone if folks are interested. We found that it is feasible to install at the curb, and we actually have already installed the first project. And that had a ribbon cutting earlier this year. I think one of the things that may be useful, and I know many of you already have curbside charging stations, so you're actually the pioneers, and we've looked to many of you to try and replicate your work. I will say a couple of things to help make sure that we're managing the curb. We are working with the private vendors who own and operate the charging stations to make sure that they're using pricing so that when somebody's charged, price goes up, and ideally that vehicle moves on. We also have very active curb, we have parking control officers, and they are helping to make sure that people aren't dwelling, because we really want to make sure that those charging stations are available to all residents and that we have high turnover. So I'll leave it there. And again, thanks so much for including me. Feel free to email me or get my contact information if you want to learn more about the electric vehicle curbside work that I'm doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you, team. Definitely very interesting how public-private partnerships can help us free those spaces. I know that people love leaving their cars charging for the full day instead of allowing others to use it. So very useful. Now I would like to invite Amir Afridi from St. John's to talk about the challenges that you're facing.
Hello, everyone. Thanks everyone. Great to be here. City of St. John's, it's a small city as compared to San Francisco and Spain. I was looking at the population. Certainly, we are the capital city for the Newfoundland. However, we have downtown where we kind of manage the curbside, and there's a lot of demand to it, especially with the tourists coming into the city. There's a parking that really need to be balanced between the businesses and the tourists and the visitors as well, and of course the residents who live there. So we have different kind of curbside management that we tried. Certainly, as Tim was talking about, we have some electric car stations that we did provide on street as well, because in the downtown area, in the city of St. John's, there are houses that sometimes they have garages, but most of the times they don't have garages. Also, most of the times there is no off-street parking as well for the residents. So we need to come up with a balance in order for parking demand and as well as businesses and visitors in that area. We have created some loading zones within the city where we are looking at changing them to resident parking at later time of the day, that we need to make some changes to the bylaws. However, the loading zones are there where for number of businesses, in order to manage, we don't provide loading zone for each businesses, and we kind of share that in the area within the city. Other than that, certainly we have bike lanes. We started implementing bike lanes within the city. We did most of the bike lanes in the outskirts of the city, and we are making our way towards the downtown area. So we are testing how we can incorporate the bike lanes within the downtown area, within the city. And certainly that will come into picture when we are developing the transportation management plan for the city in the upcoming years. That will be considered how we can best manage our curb and the on-street parking. So that's for now, but certainly we are here. I think it's a good initiative because as a small city and as a big city, there are problems, and we can share those knowledge in order to make and inform decisions in the future.
Thank you so much, Amer. Yeah, very insightful as well with the bike lanes. That's also a logistical problem or challenge in terms of safety. So let's hear what other cities are doing. I would like to now give the floor to Juan Carlos from Vitoria-Gasteiz.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thank you so much, Susana, for the invitation to be here. Yeah, let's start. Trying to introduce briefly the city of Vitoria-Gasteiz, because I think it's slightly different to the other cities. Yeah, because we are a medium-sized city, but really compact, with 250,000 inhabitants in the north of Spain. But 98% of the population is living inside a 3 kilometers radius from the city border to the city center. So there is a huge pressure for the public space. And Maria Eugenia said that they consider the Curbside as the border, the limit of the public space. But we consider, and that's one of the challenges for the coming new sustainable mobility plan, because we are in the process of design a new one, to evolve the current one. We have the challenge that the Curbside should be part of the vibrant public space, trying to transform the way our streets have been designed for decades, and why not to try to transform as much as possible those Curbsides into services lanes where we could allocate a space for different services, as it could be for cafe terraces. We have some examples where during the outside, so out of the peak slots are used as spaces for terraces. But why not to try to reinforce those areas for other uses, for instance, in order to provide a better infrastructure for parking bikes or for parking e-scooters, or for why not trying to support the deployment of new mobility services, not so new, but for instance, what are the carpooling or car sharing services using this services lane, and why not? There is also a huge opportunity, as Stefano stated at the beginning. Why not to try to give those spaces that usually are occupied by the private car to nature, trying to implement greening actions in order to improve the green infrastructure within the city. So we are in the process to continue working in an integrated overview of the Sustainable Mobility and Public Space Plan. And in such a plan, having the opportunity we have as a city, as we have no metropolitan area at all, we consider it could be possible to try to reduce the amount of cars that are using the curbsides and trying to recover this public space for other uses of the public space apart of the mobility uses. Why not? But in any case, we are also in the process to define specific sandboxes where we are trying to implement some pilots dealing with monitoring of loading and unloading areas, mainly in the city center, where, really, we have a huge pressure from freight operators, and it would be needed to manage it properly and to have a better information in order to support in a proper way the decision taking in managing the public space. And for that, there is a foundation here that is building a data space, and the idea is to use the data gathered on those areas that are going to be monitored to feed the data space in order to provide to manage it properly. What are the challenges in the public space? So it has been really impressive, the examples of Madrid. That's nice. Many ideas to check and to test. Because we are nowadays also doing a specific review of the freight distribution in the city in order to have a specific chapter focus on how to improve the delivery in the city.
Thank you so much, Juan Carlos. And definitely, I love your idea of really rethinking what these spaces mean, what public space means, and who actually owns it or has the right to use it. I really like how in the beginning, Andrew mentioned that this should be dynamic. So I wonder how we could balance those different uses. It could be interesting, for example, if you have a festival or something like that, that it could be allocated for a specific terrace, as you mentioned. But then what happens in the early mornings if we have some freight deliveries? I would like to move on. Oh, yeah. Sorry, Juan Carlos.
It's how it's working. For instance, in one day in the morning, there are this service line that is being used by the freight delivery, but in the afternoon, we have in the same place the terraces for the cafes in the area.
Yes, wonderful. That also balances in terms of uses and who has the right to be in that space. I would like now to give the floor to Jorge, who we have upgraded as panelist as well. Jorge comes from the city of Phoenix, and he also would like to share his experience and has a question.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Great. Well, we're a little bit different. We're the 5th largest city in the United States. We're very much spread out. We're over 500 square miles of city, and we've got different zones of the city. So we have our downtown, our urban core. We have what we call our central city, and we have uptown. So those central cities and uptown areas are growing quite a bit, a little bit different than downtown. So we don't experience necessarily the sort of curb management, the war for the curb management here. It typically happens during our special events. We have a lot of the sporting venues downtown for basketball, for the National Basketball Association here and the Women's National Basketball Association, as well as baseball. So we do have special events, but we do have a lot of public and private garage spacing. So we find that we don't necessarily have the same issues that you see maybe in San Francisco or Los Angeles in their downtowns. And we're still a downtown that's relatively new. We're trying to attract more interest in downtown and in events and in food and all that in that space, and trying to attract more people into the downtown area. We work with our Downtown Phoenix Alliance to attract more people downtown, to spend more money downtown, but we don't really see the pressures of curb management as much as other cities. We do want to take a look at dynamic pricing. We want to look at the parking utilization, because one thing that we do have is that it's used all day. For the spaces that we do have, we see that it gets used all 8 hours of the day, and so we don't have that sort of turnover that other cities have. We don't see a lot of double parking because we do have some alley space where people can make deliveries. So that's kind of been a shining light in what we do. We don't have to really worry about the double parking and those kind of issues with curb management. But the one thing that really interests me is the electrification of the curb. I think that's something that I would open up to the rest of the panel, is looking at electrification, because that's going to be sort of the footprint for sustainable cities. If we want to think about parking use and electrification of that space, it's going to be one of the more important things that we do. So how other cities are doing that would be of great interest to us as well.
Yes, I think it would be wonderful if Tim can share, as he offered, the results of what they are doing in terms of electrification in San Francisco. But I don't know if any other of the panelists would like to add anything in terms of electrification of the curb.
In Vitoria-Gasteiz, we have such a discussion. But as our priority is to try to give the public space as much as possible to people and to nature, we decided to put all the charging stations off street. So because being a so scarce asset, the public space and also the car seat, we consider that having such a space occupied by cars or by car charging for many hours, it's not the best way to manage a scarce asset. And for that, we decided to put the charging space outside the car seat. Also, because our challenge is also to reduce as much as possible the car fleet in the city. Because being a compact city, providing a wonderful public transport network, cycling and walking network for the entire city, and not having a metropolitan area and having 80% of the people working inside the municipality, we consider it's not needed to have a so high ownership car ownership rate. And this way, it could be possible to try to reduce the pressure on the car side on the entire city. So we consider it will be needed to try to focus as much as possible to put the charging spaces not at the car side.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. We have only a couple of minutes, so we would like to go with one of the questions posted in the chat.
So we have a question from Jason Neudorf, sorry for the pronunciation, from Toronto. Thank you very much for the question. So I'll be curious of any of the panelists or presenter to comment more on approaches to enforcement for loading zones and other short duration curb uses. And so the question is especially for Madrid, to hear more from Madrid on how this works with their loading zones. So the question is about the enforcement for loading zones in the city. Maria Eugenia.
We have only 1 minute left, so Maria Eugenia, if you can be super brief.
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
if you
of
want
course.
to talk more, we can do it after.
Okay. The enforcement. I suppose that it is the application that it is mandatory. It is mandatory for all the logistic operators, And how we control it? We control it with the same system that we control the regulated parking spaces. So we have on-foot people, monitoring, and also we have vehicles that they register with cameras that they register the license. So that's how we control. And also the application controls that if the ticket is, if the vehicle is parked and the ticket has expired, so the time is beyond the time permitted, then they will be fined. I don't know if this is the answer that you were looking for or the information, but you have my email address, and I will be happy to provide all the information that you want.
Thank you so much, Maria Eugenia. Stefano?
Yes, we are out of time, so I'm going to write a question to Andrew, and then I will share the answer to all the participants. So we saw a win-to-win situation. So I'm very curious to know if there's something wrong in the curbside management of he faced some problems in the relations with cities, and so the cities are really ready for this great amount of data, real-time data, or there's something that they should do first. So this is an interesting question, but I will write a question to Andrew, and I'm pretty sure that I will share the answer to everybody. So thank you very much.
And we invite the rest of you to do the same. If you have any other questions, please put them in the chat and we will email you afterwards with all of the questions and answers. I want to thank all of the speakers and participants for such an insightful and engaging discussion. Before you leave, please take a moment to answer a short survey in the chat. You'll see the link. Your feedback is really valuable for us and we use it for our next webinars. Thank you everyone for joining us today, and we look forward to continuing the conversation in our next SUMT activities.